Let's move on to story number 2, Colin. That's the Denver Broncos riding high, 10-game win streak, 2-game lead over the Chargers in the AFC West. You know, Sean Payton, he's said division he's not really worried about. He's just taking things week by week.
The focus gets so inwardly driven to our own team that I recognize that a team that's won the division for however many straight years won't be able to win it this year. We got a stretch here with some real good football teams coming in, focusing on what we can do to win the division. The Chargers are very much alive in that battle.
Yeah, the NFL changes so quickly. Dynasty to not making the playoffs in a sport where 40% of the teams do.
They're not eliminated, the Chiefs. Let me just ask you about this vaunted Broncos defense. So I got some numbers because I've looked at this game. So the Colts, they had 7.1 yards per play, 473 yards against this Broncos defense. Jackson Dart went up and down the field. 5 long touchdown drives in Denver.
I know.
The Chargers, 6 drives of 50 or more yards against this Denver. Is the Denver defense awesome, or do they get fat and happy against bad teams?
I think there's some truth here. Like, I look at the Houston Texans and the Seahawks, and I see dominating, aggressive defenses. Length, speed, aggressive coach. I look at Denver's and I see one great pass rusher, one unbelievable Hall of Fame level corner, and good players. I like Denver's roster, but I like Bo Nix, and I like Cortland Sutton and Miners, the offensive line, and Garrett Bowles. I think Harvey's a little underrated, the running back.
Yeah, he had a good game.
I think they have a receiving core that's long and athletic. I think the Denver talent is spread. Oh, now, I think Hufanga is tremendous. I think the Denver talent is spread all over the place. I think Seattle and the Texans and the Rams have better defenses. I think Philly's defense is really talented.
Well, when healthy, they need Jalen Carter back, obviously. But I would agree with that sentiment. Final story, Con.
The ultimate takeaway is that we're going to keep discussing this topic. I'd like to examine it from several angles. I always believe it's crucial when assessing teams, particularly because the common method for evaluating defenses and offenses from a broad perspective is usually points per game, how many points you score, and how many you allow. Sometimes, if you want a deeper look, you might consider yards, turnovers, and other similar metrics. But ultimately, it boils down to, are you scoring points, and are you preventing the other team from scoring? That's fundamentally the objective. Sometimes those rankings can be somewhat deceptive. You can get complacent and overconfident from beating up on inferior teams, as Jax mentioned. This applies to both offense and defense. To some extent, every team benefits from that. That's why those games always require a nuanced breakdown. It's interesting because I was reviewing the schedule. I thought I was going to create a segment for NFL Live, so I was pretty excited. I recalled that on The Herd, they were discussing the AFC West and similar topics. So, I decided to delve into it. I had already examined the schedule and the teams they've played, and I have it ready to bring up shortly. Then, they started mentioning all these other teams. I had already begun formulating my thoughts on what I wanted to share, because I was about to say that I believe the Green Bay Packers will be the most well-rounded and talented team the Denver Broncos have encountered all season. I shared my perspective yesterday, stating that all the questions surrounding the Denver Broncos will be answered in that contest. That game is where you'll find your clarity. I'm always comfortable analyzing these matchups. I discuss this frequently now because it's a consistent theme where I might slightly challenge fans, especially in the comments section. I'm okay stating that a win wasn't particularly impressive, or it was an easy victory against a bad team, and so on. Conversely, I might say a loss still felt promising. People often really struggle with that concept. Looking at it this way, we can dismiss the Titans game. It was Cam Ward in Week 1. But even in Week 2, it was the Colts and the Broncos. The Colts, early on before their season unraveled, were on pace to have a better offense than the 2018 Chiefs or the undefeated Patriots, whether 2007 or 2011. They were absolutely phenomenal. So the Colts were competing with everyone. The Chargers are considered to have a strong defense, and the Colts put up a huge number of points on them. Furthermore, especially in Week 2, the Broncos were at a significant disadvantage because nobody truly knew who Daniel Jones with the Indianapolis Colts was. You don't really know what you're preparing for. As a defensive coach, you scheme and game plan specifically for that quarterback and that team. That's why they often say you have to disregard some preseason games. Coaches aren't necessarily doing that level of specific preparation then. You're not crafting a game plan against a particular quarterback or scheme. There's only so much material to study. With Daniel Jones coming from the Giants to the Colts, nobody really knew what that team would look like. I'm sure they surprised a lot of people. Then you face the Chargers, a 23-20 game. That's a competitive divisional rivalry game on the road. I don't see what's so bad about that. We can dismiss the Bengals game. Yes, you sack and pressure Jake Browning repeatedly. I remember that game vividly because it was one where we thought, all right, the Broncos need to show up, have a clean game, get a big win, and they did, at a time they needed to. I believe it was a Monday night football game, if I recall correctly. Holding a team to only 3 points significantly helps your points per game average, for sure. Then, they went up against the Eagles. The Eagles' offense is notoriously inconsistent, as we know, a bit all over the place. The Jets we know are not good. The Giants? Well, at that point, Jackson Dart had a lot of momentum and was playing very well. Again, he's a quarterback you don't have much film on. You don't really know what to expect. What's the plan? What is Brian DeBoll looking to do? Etc. But also, remember, up to these points, the Broncos' offense wasn't necessarily playing great. They weren't sustaining many drives, had a lot of 3-and-outs, etc. The defense was probably on the field a lot, bearing the burden of carrying the team. So you were a much less balanced team, which was people's concern. They were showing up in the fourth quarter, but still. Now, against the Cowboys, the defense disrupted them. Wasn't it their backup quarterback who even ended up getting a touchdown? My memory is a bit fuzzy on some details, but they pretty much controlled that game. Then you face the Texans. Again, that was with C.J. Stroud getting knocked out, Davis Mills going in. They aren't necessarily a great offense to begin with, but it's still something. The Raiders we can dismiss. Geno Smith? These were still good defensive performances, but they only tell you so much. I only learned so much from playing the Raiders. I actually learned a lot from facing the Chiefs. Say what you will about that Chiefs offense, they still have the ability to score points and do damage. They just do. I know they're not perfect, not who they were, but they had no problem with the Dallas Cowboys defense. That's for sure. We could say the Dallas Cowboys defense isn't that good, but still, they were able to do it. That means something. Then you think, yeah, but then look what they did against, oh my gosh, what's his name? With the Washington Commanders. His name escapes me right now. It'll come to me. Whatever his name is, he played great, played awesome. He's the type of quarterback who can step up in games and go on stretches. He was a starting quarterback before. You could argue that with a better coaching staff and team throughout his career, he could be a different story, a bit like Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. So he's not this terrible quarterback where you just dismiss the Commanders. He played really well, the Commanders' offense played really well, and the Denver defense came up with massive, essential stops. That game was really impressive. Then against the Raiders, that score isn't really representative of anything either. So that's why facing this Packers team is so telling. It's also kind of funny because even against this Packers team, their offense has been a little inconsistent. They've been randomly shut down or haven't looked right. Colin, because he was praising the Eagles' defense just a second ago after that Packers-Eagles game, specifically said, I don't want to hear it about the defense when talking about Jordan Love and the Packers. He said that Eagles' defense is middle of the pack. It's all about the Packers' offense not being good enough. So they could be great, or maybe not. Frankly, no team is consistently dominating everyone right now. That's why I've talked about this. Bo Nix and this offense have really started to build momentum and consistency. That's what I want to see more than anything. Because even if you want to ask, like Jax might, how good is this defense really? I'm not trying to figure out if it's the number 1, 2, or 3 defense, or if some numbers are misleading. That doesn't really mean that much to me. But I know it's good enough. That's all I care about at this point. I know it's good enough and has the ability to be really disruptive. Can they, with maybe the reliability of this Texans defense or something, swallow up people nonstop? Maybe. Maybe not. Again, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. But I know this defense, like any defense, can still get beat. Every single defense, even the great ones, can have a game where they get lit up. A key player gets knocked out, and everything just unravels a bit. But you're never banking on that. Even if they give up a bunch of points in the first half, the defense can still elevate in the second half and give the offense a chance. As long as the offense can also play complementary football, not turn the ball over, Avoid a lot of short drives, give the defense time to rest, help them out, pin the opponent back near their own end zone, get a lead so they can just get after the quarterback. The defense is going to be great enough. You're not going to be concerned. You're not going into the playoffs thinking, yeah, but can this defense really slow down, insert any quarterback team? Like, yeah, they could be disruptive again. Can they shut them down completely to where you think, as long as we score 12 points, we'll win this playoff game? No. And I don't know who feels that way right now. No defense is like that right now. So, I don't think we have to be too narrow in our lens trying to figure out exactly how good or not good this defense is. To me, it's all about whether this team can truly demonstrate the ability to play complementary football consistently over these next 3-4 games and into the playoffs. That involves both offense and defense. I'm excited to see what Bo Nix and this offense look like specifically against this Green Bay Packers defense because I have much more confidence in the consistency of the Green Bay Packers defense than I do their offense. Jordan Love could, at any moment, throw a couple of bad picks or whatever. I believe in the Packers and Jordan Love, but I keep emphasizing there's really no team or offense I have immense, unwavering confidence in regarding their level of consistency right now. No team is bringing it without a shadow of a doubt. But I do have that feeling for the Packers defense. That's why I really want to see what the Broncos offense does against it. Even if the Broncos defense gives up some points and yards and it's another 27-26 win, I'm not going to feel less about it because I think this Packers offense has the ability to light it up. Jordan Love over the last few weeks has been spectacular, making some unbelievable throws. I'm excited to see what the Broncos defense does against that too. That's where I want to see, are you able to disrupt Jordan Love when he's making these throws? Is he making great throws that you're still breaking up, or are you making it difficult for him? Is he making good decisions or bad decisions? If the Packers get shut down by this Broncos defense, but it's clear the Packers just didn't have a great game, or Jordan Love was off, then that only means so much to me as well. At this point in the season, you're taking very, very nuanced looks and forming nuanced takes about these things. My baseline for the Broncos right now is that I have confidence, so I don't have to zoom in too much. But I'm also not going to throw nuance out the window either. I find it all really interesting right now. Again, I'm not going through the schedule asking, who have you really beaten? That's not the game I'm playing. But the Titans, the Colts, they were interesting for a while. The Chargers were interesting, but with all their injuries, it's hard to evaluate their quality. The Bengals, obviously nothing. The Eagles have been the definition of an inconsistent, wild team. The Jets, nothing. The Giants, again, a fascinating team, but who are they? The Cowboys, also a kind of fascinating offense. Terrible defense. Made some changes mid-season. The Texans, we know they have a great defense. Offense, I don't know. The Raiders, awful. The Chiefs, collapsing. The Commanders, not a playoff team and also collapsing. There's just so much to consider. The truth is, if I went through the Bills' schedule or the Patriots' schedule, the Patriots are a perfect example. People hang their hat on their big wins against the Buccaneers and the Bills. Well, the Bills have some really bad losses right now. The Buccaneers, I know everyone was high on Baker Mayfield being MVP and all, but not quite. So, I don't know what that means. The Broncos boosted their confidence by beating the Eagles, and that was impressive. But then, was it? Again, obviously, I'm super high on the Broncos, so this isn't to downplay them. But typically, when you have some big wins, there's a lot of trust in that team. This year, if the Chiefs, Eagles, Ravens, Bills, and all the usual suspects we know are reliably really good, great, know how to execute at a high level, have balanced offense and defense, and play with consistency, then when you take them down, beat them, or play a tough game with them, you think, yeah, that was a good game. We always look at strength of schedule before any games are played, yet we have no idea how good the Cowboys really are. Or maybe the Jets with Justin Fields will be great and awesome, and that defense will be on fire. You don't actually know. A lot of it is based on the past, and then obviously who you drafted, what moves you made in free agency, coaching hires and fires. Right now, the season is such that I don't know what games are a great barometer. Even the Jets could say, look, we hung with the Broncos, we almost had that game, therefore we're as good as the Broncos. But are you? Right. Same with the Raiders. Are you? It's just a mess. Every time I look at a team's schedule, the games they played, going through the numbers, you think, how do I make sense of this? How good were the Colts in that immediate moment? One team beating the Colts now is so different from beating or losing to them in the first 5 weeks. So, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll end here. At the end of the day, if I'm really trying, if you said you have to figure out how good this Broncos defense is right now, and how are you going to figure it out? You're not going to just zoom in and look at the players and how they performed in these games individually. I know there were some injuries for the Broncos as well in some games, and that's fair. I'd look at the Chargers game and think the defense played pretty well. I remember Justin Herbert making some spectacular throws. Bo Nix missed a couple of throws that game, which really changes the complexity significantly, but they only gave up 23 points. That easily could have been a game where they allowed 17, 20, or fewer points. That's a major victory. And that was when the Chargers, again, were starting to get banged up early, but not what they eventually became. So I like that. I'm going to throw out the Eagles because they're just a mess. We know their offense is a mess. They could have moments, but there's no reliability there. So I throw them out. The Giants. Jackson Dart was a really fascinating quarterback, made some awesome plays. That game got so wild, as we all know, it was absolutely insane. I kind of just chalk it up to it being an insane game. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not sure digging into the stats. They gave up this many rushing yards, this many passing yards. Someone was 8 for 12 on third down. Is that helpful? I don't know, man. That game was insane. The Broncos did essentially nothing offensively for the first 3 quarters. I don't know. Now the Cowboys, their offense was still pretty legit. Again, I forget if CeeDee Lamb played or not, but it was legit. And the Broncos said, we don't care. That great Packers defense, I'm pretty sure they got lit up by the Cowboys prior to that game. So there was a lot of momentum with Dak, MVP talk, etc. This offense is actually legit. The defense is the problem. And the Broncos were like, nope. They absolutely held them to less than 24 points. The game was over. It was a random touchdown near the end by a backup quarterback. So they swallowed that up. And like I said, I'll stand by my Chiefs take as well. So in some of the games where you're really looking at what the opposing offense can do, I think the Broncos rose to the occasion, all things considered. The biggest outlier for me is actually that Giants-Broncos game. And like I said, that game was so insane. They shouldn't have even allowed a touchdown for the Giants. Wasn't there an awful pass interference call that made it possible? I don't even remember exactly how the chain of events unfolded because it was like, need a field goal, need a touchdown. All the drives in the final few minutes were just insane. They got the big interception against Jackson Dart. A little bit of a gift from him for sure. So that game is just too wild to draw strong conclusions. But I'm confident in the Broncos, and I'm excited to see what they do against the Packers. I think they'll have a good game plan. It's not supposed to be easy. You're not supposed to just march in and shut down every single offense, expecting to hold them to 14 points and say, game over. That's not how it works. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Denver Broncos? How do you feel about them? How complete is this team right now? Do you have concerns about the defense? Bo Nix? Colin saying he thinks a couple of other teams have better defenses than the Broncos? The Packers are favorites. I see the line is 2.5 at Denver. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, this is such a big game. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some debates, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here and would absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something we all feel connected to, something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as it really helps with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.